Hello and welcome to the video on analyzing data frames. In this video, we'll learn about some important functions and features that Pandas gives us to analyze data frames. First of all, viewing the data. So one of the most used method for getting a quick overview of the data frame is the head method. The head method returns the headers and a specified number of rows starting from the top. This is a sample code. Import pandas as pd. Now we are making one data frame and I'm storing data.csv by the read csv function. And now we are having one data frame df. To view the top 10 rows of that particular data frame, we can write df.head and into brackets we can give 10. Now there is also a tail method for viewing the last rows of the data frame. If you want to view the top rows, then you can use the head method, and if you want to view this last few rows of the data frame, then you can use the tail method. The tail method returns the headers and specified number of rows starting from the bottom. The same thing can be done with the tail method. Moving on, the next thing we are interested about is the info about the data. So the data frame object has a method called .info that gives you information about the data set. For example, df.info, you can call this, and now this will return the basic information about the data set. Like there are 169 entries for each of the columns and 164 for the calories. These are the column names. We don't have any null values in the columns, non-null, and this is the data type. So calories may contain some decimal point or float type values. That way it is showing float 64. All these three, duration, pulse and max pulse, only have the integer type values. That's why we have the data type as integer 64. So this is about the info method. All this I'll show you in the practical implementation on the Jupyter notebook once we are done with the presentation. So next we have the describe method. So the describe method returns description of the data in the data frame. If the data frame contains numerical data, this is very important. The describe method will only work on the numerical data, and the description contains these information for each column. So you will get these basic statistical details for all the numerical columns that you have on your data frame. So count, basically the number of non-empty values, mean, the average or the mean value for that entire column, the standard deviation, this is the minimum value. Now you have the 25th percentile, 50th percentile and 75th percentile. So, and the maximum value. So these are the basic statistical measures that the describe method returns for the numerical column. Here is one example. So we have one data frame called frame, and I have stored ratings.csv into that data frame. Now if I call the describe method, I'll get all the information. So these are all the numerical columns that are present in the ratings.csv, and this is the information for that particular column. So the average value for rating is 1.19 and the average food rating is 1.2. This is the mean. Now the standard deviation for rating is 0.7. So by using the describe method, you can get a very quick overview of all the numerical columns of your data. Now let us understand about the correlations of the data. So a great aspect of the pandas module is the correlation method. So it is CORR method. The core method calculates the relationship between each column in your data set. So to work with this, you can simply write df.core. Now correlation is very important to understand the a relationship among different columns that are present in your data set. So for example, if you see, a perfect positive correlation will have the value of 1 and a perfect negative correlation will have a value of -1. And if the data set is if those two particular columns are non-correlated, then they will have value somewhere around 0 or slightly plus minus. By doing this, we can have a very good idea. Like for example, here calories and duration have a very good correlation of 0.92. So this will be very important when we move to the machine learning part, and this will be very helpful. The correlation analysis will be very helpful when we try to deploy or make our machine learning models. So this is a very important and powerful feature, the correlation that pandas gives us. So I hope you're clear with the basic functions that pandas gives us to analyze different data frames. Now let's move to the Jupyter notebook and try to implement all the functions that we've seen in this presentation. So now I will show you the practical implementation of all the functions that we saw in the presentation. Let us start. Let me import pandas as pd. Now I will use the same airport.csv file. So df pd.read csv, and I'll have airport.csv. So to check that, I'll write df, and I have all the values that are stored in the report.csv file. So I have 337 rows and 20 columns. Now if I want to view the top 5 data, all the rows that are present in the reports.csv, so I can write df.head. It will give me top 5 values or the top 5 rows present in that file. And if I want to view, let's say, top 10, so I can write df.head and 10. I can mention 10 in the argument. So this is about the head. Same thing can be done for the last few rows by using the df.tail function. If I normally use df.tail function, it will show me the last 5 rows of the dataset. If I want to view more number of rows, so I can specify it inside the brackets. Let's say I want to view the last 7 rows. So I can write 7 and it will return last 7 rows of the data frame. So this is about the head and tail. Now let us have a look on the info. So I'll write df.info and it will give me the basic information about all the columns present in the dataset. So ID or intent, this is a categorical feature, this is a numerical feature. This is showing object, that's why I can say it's a categorical feature. This is the count and not null and the name of the columns. Now we can also see this method called describe. It will describe all the numerical features present in the dataset. So all these are ID, latitude, longitude, elevation, year built, year tier, score, and all these are numerical features. So we are getting the basic information or the basic statistical data about all these features like count, average, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, 50th percentile, and so on. So this was about the describe method. Now I hope you are clear with all the methods that we discussed in the presentation, and I have also shown you the practical implementation. So now let's move to the next video. Thank you.